In this episode, I talk with Jon Loomer about a more personal type of marketing, his online training, and Facebook ads.
Welcome to the Online Course Coach Podcast, brought to you by TrueFocusMedia.com. Whether you're a beginner or expert, this is the podcast for the latest in online course creation tips, news, interviews, and ideas. And here's your coach, Jeff Long.
Welcome back to another episode of the Online Course Coach Podcast. Again, my name is Jeff Long, and I'm excited that you are here listening to this episode. And if you're listening to this the week it comes out, the day it comes out, chances are that I will be at Social Media Marketing World. And so I know some of you will be there, and I'm looking forward to hanging out, meeting you, talking about social media, as well as, of course, online courses. But I wanted to interview, one of the key people that will be speaking at Social Media Marketing World. And I was able to get a fantastic guy in Jon Loomer. And we have a really good conversation. So I just want to pull out a couple things just so you are prepared, so you are ready to learn and to listen from him. And so I love his personal approach to marketing. And you'll get this in the interview. He's a laid-back guy. And we talk about marketing and how sometimes marketers can be, marketers. And when we talk about how to really serve rather than sell, and how to not be a marketer that just feels kind of gross when you are talking with them. And this is something that has come up in different podcast episodes over the last few weeks, which I think is very interesting. So if you're trying to figure out, how do I market myself without being too spammy or scammy or just feeling kind of gross, this is another episode to listen to. And if you want to listen to another similar episode where we talk about this, listen to my last podcast interview with Corey Miller. So just go to onlinecoursecoach.com and you can find that interview with Corey Miller of iThemes as we talk about really how to serve your audience and instead of just selling to them. And so I love how Jon talks about that in this episode. And then also, I want you to remember or to think about how he took things one step at a time. Now, if you're like me, I get overwhelmed at times with all the things I want to do, I am doing, all the people I'm trying to serve and help, all the client work and all that. My agency does a lot of things related to online courses, to video marketing, to website development, and at times it gets a little overwhelming. And so Jon has a really good approach, and it's been interesting how he takes things one step at a time. It reminds me of how when I was in junior high, I got overwhelmed with all the tests and schoolwork and life, and my dad told me to go outside and get a bunch of sticks. And I thought it was crazy, which as a junior higher, you always think your parents are crazy, even though you're probably the crazy one. And so I went out, I got those sticks, I brought them in, and he said, "All right, Jeff, go ahead and break one of those sticks." And so I broke it. Then he said, "Go ahead and break another one." And I broke that one. And I broke all those sticks that were in that pile, but I broke them individually, and it was so much easier. So just like Jon took one step at a time, I encourage you, break one stick at a time. Take one thing that you're trying to do with your course. Maybe it's just creating the outline. Maybe it's the videos. And so if you go to easyvideoforcourses.com, you can sign up when that relaunches and learn how to create better videos for your online courses. Even if you don't like being on camera, we talk about how to do videos, whether you're on camera or not on camera, and how to feel confident either way. Or maybe you're wanting to market your course. That is something you should, break that stick off one step at a time. And then also, Jon mentions, it's easy to look at him and be like, "Oh, he is amazing and he's doing amazing things and I wish I was like him." And, that can be easy with these interviews where you're talking with industry experts. And I love the quote, and I tried to find who originally said it, and I couldn't nail it down to one person, but it's something like, "Don't compare your behind the scenes with somebody else's highlight reel." Don't look at Michael Jordan and think, oh man, he is amazing. He's won all these championships and NBA MVPs, and I can barely shoot a layup. Don't compare your behind the scenes with other people's highlight reels. So whether you're listening to this interview or other interviews, or you're feeling like you're behind where you'd like to be, don't compare yourself. Just take that next step. Don't look 20 years down the road. Take that next step. And then lastly, Jon and I talk about his specialty, which is Facebook ads. And so be listening for that. And I have a sign up. If you go to onlinecoursecoach.com/FB ads, that stands for Facebook ads, of course, you can sign up, because in the future, I'll be hosting a small group of people as we walk through Facebook ads, how to set it up, how to do it the best way, and then how to market your online courses with Facebook ads. So again, if you're interested in learning more about Facebook ads for online courses specifically, go to onlinecoursecoach.com/FB ads, and you can sign up for that. I'll be giving you more information in the future as that information rolls out. It'll start very small. It's not going to be this big launch, this big thing. I just want a small group of people to kind of walk through it as we go through how to use Facebook ads specifically for online courses. All right, well, I could keep going on the things I learned, but hey, I don't want to give all the secrets, all the fun away from this interview. So let's jump right into the interview with Jon Loomer. Well, Jon Loomer, thanks so much for being on the Online Course Coach podcast today.
Thanks so much for having me, Jeff.
Yeah, so Jon, you call yourself an accidental marketer, and that's not a term that's widely out there. Why do you call yourself that?
Yeah, it's something I wish that I could have made into a URL or something, but someone already has been calling themselves that for a long time, I think. But it's funny. Every sales job, first of all, I recommend that everybody do something they hate for a while. I'll give you some perspective. So any sales-related job that I ever had, I absolutely hated it because it's just uncomfortable for me. So one of the first jobs I had out of college, and I guess I would consider it my first quote-unquote real job, if you want to call it that, was as a telemarketer. I mean, really, it doesn't get much lower than that in terms of feeling bad about yourself. Yeah. And so I always felt uncomfortable doing it because I always hung up on those people. I'm not a deceptive person by nature. I'm one of those people too that if I ever try to tell a half truth to my wife, it's impossible because she knows I'm lying, so I can't do it. So these are good things, but also bad in terms of trying to sell sometimes, I guess, at least in the classic way. At least what we think of is sales. So I never took business courses in college. And it's funny, I eventually started moving up along the ladder, and I got just an amazing job working for the National Basketball Association, overseeing their fantasy games. What I didn't really realize at the time is some of what I was doing there was marketing. But I didn't, again, it wasn't part of the title. It was a senior manager of fantasy games. But when I ended up leaving the NBA and eventually was looking for a job, the person who hired me at the NBA said, you should sign up, you should apply for this VP of strategic marketing. I'm like, I'm not a marketer. But she's the one that hired me. He's like, well, yeah, that's kind of what you've been doing.
Right.
But so my main point being is, I don't like a lot of the things that we see in today's marketing world, right? It's the deceptiveness, or the deception, the sleaze and the greed. It just it's a bad look overall. Not saying that everyone's like that, but it's always like these templated ways that you should market and use these words and not those words and all this stuff. And I just don't buy into any of that stuff. So that's really kind of why I guess I consider myself more of an accidental marketer.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. That's interesting. I was a telemarketer a few times in high school, and have some nightmare scenario. In fact, I called one person, and I don't know if they were telling me the truth or just trying to get me to hang up, but I said, hey, is John Smith there? And they said something like, oh, I'm sorry, he's not here. He was just murdered recently. I'm like, okay, have a great day. Trying to figure out what to say. Like, I'm so sorry, or my bad. What do you say after that? So I don't know if they were just pulling my leg or if they were serious, but that one will stick with me for a long time.
Of course.
So we all know, and I'm kind of putting air quotes around that annoying kind of marketer type person. So how do you market, promote, or sell something without being that annoying kind of marketer person?
I think it's actually easier than you'd assume,
Mm.
because what I've found is over the years, people really respond to transparency and not being pushy. And also, look, I'm not here trying to get as many sales and as many dollars out of you today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to build a long-term business where, yeah, maybe I convinced you to buy something today, and then you're unhappy with it because you weren't ready, and then you're never going to buy from me again. But what I want instead is someone who buys on their own time when it's the right time for them, and when they do, they know it's the right time, and they're more likely to buy and buy and buy. So that's really been my approach. It doesn't mean I don't sell. I
Mm-hmm.
do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that I'm always pretty clear in my copy. A lot of times in my emails, especially, look, this may not be right for you, and that's okay. These are the people it's for. Especially my trainings aren't. I do things mainly live via webinar. Like, if you don't train this way, if you don't learn this way, this isn't right for you,
Mm-hmm.
and that's fine. I don't want you to buy it then. Because what's going to happen is you're going to be unhappy. You're not going to recommend it. We're going to have administrative fees and whatnot just to probably refund you or whatever. It's not worth all that.
Yeah.
So, well, I certainly have sales funnels, and I write emails and create ads trying to sell product. It's not that hard sell. I'm not going after people who don't know me. I try to send people down a funnel so that when I'm trying to sell to you, I'm selling to you at the right time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So at what point in your career did you start diving into Facebook ads? Because I know that's your specialty.
Yeah. Well, my first exposure period to Facebook was while I was at the MBA, and we partnered with Facebook 10 years ago now.
Wow.
So that was right after it opened to the old folks, so the non-college kids, non-high school kids. And we partnered with Facebook to create an app before you could create your own app. And I was as a admin of the Facebook MBA Facebook group before there were pages. That's how long ago it was.
Wow.
Ads back then were the Wild West. I wasn't involved with ads at that point. I became involved with ads. I'm trying to think back. It is probably somewhere around 2000-ish, maybe a little bit before that, when I was first exposed to ads. But it really wasn't until I got laid off for the second time in 2.5 years. And again, this was after the NBA. NBA, looking back, I was crazy because I left the NBA my own free will, and then I got laid off twice. But at that point, it's like, okay, I need to create a website. I didn't know I was starting a business, but I need to promote whatever it is that I'm doing. And so I started using ads at that point, and I was, spending $1 a day because really kind of concerned about money at that point because that was the only source of income from the house. And over time, I started using it more and more and more and more because I wasn't focused primarily on Facebook ads either with my content in the early going. In the early going, it was a lot of different social media things. Some of it was personal use of Facebook. Then it slowly morphed into Facebook marketing. But even then, Facebook ads were just one of the things that were talked about. And then, it was probably 1.5 years in or so that Facebook ads became my focus, but only because I was using ads more and more for my own business at that point.
Sure. Sure. So, for the audience, they may not know or have much exposure to Facebook ads. Kind of give me the short, maybe elevator pitch on why Facebook ads are so effective.
Yeah, it really comes down to targeting
Mm,
because you've got, over a billion people on Facebook every day. And it's not just that they're there a lot. You can count on them being there. It's like 64% of the people who use Facebook are on Facebook on a daily basis.
mm,
And they provide so much data to Facebook, first of all, over the past 10 years or whatever it is that they've been on Facebook, that targeting is really good in that sense, just based on even interests. But for me, it's so much more than that. So I can target people who have visited my website, or have visited a specific page of my website during a certain time, a certain section of my website, people who have engaged with my Facebook posts, who have watched a video. I mean, it's just really, really powerful how you can give people a very specific message based on their action as opposed to just, you know, guessing and blasting everybody, which has kind of been the approach in the past, or just targeting people based on their age or where they live.
yeah.
We're well past those days.
Yeah, and it's great because then that person is more likely to want and need your
Yeah,
products or services, whatever, and so it's less intrusive, it's less forceful that way.
absolutely. I mean, I always argue. I mean, I haven't heard this as much these days, but I've in the past I always heard skeptics about Facebook ads like I never click on a Facebook ad. Those things can't work. Well, the reality is, if everything you're doing is right, the person seeing it doesn't really even think of it as an ad,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, and a lot of the content that I promote, or a lot of the stuff that I promote, it's not even like buy my stuff. It's not even sign up for this. It's here's my latest blog post,
Mm,
in case you missed it. And so, and it's not just, and it's usually reaching people who have been to my site before, so they're not like, oh, get this ad out of here. It's, oh yeah, this is part of my newsfeed experience.
mhm. Yeah. So, what made you decide to create your first training material, whether it was a course or webinar? What was the catalyst behind that?
Man, it was a scary time because I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to create a product because all the jobs I had previously, you know, I I could work with a team to do some things and create some, like a developer or something, create something for me, but my skills to be able to create something on my own, I felt like were pretty limited. Um, but basically, what I did is one day, it was 10 months after I started my website, I believe. It may have even been longer than that now. I think it was October. I think it was 13 months after I'd started my website. And I decided I was going to start a training program. Well, it's something I'd thought about for weeks or months, but I was just unsure and scared. Like I was scared no one was going to buy it. Didn't really know the technical side of it, like how I was going to do it. Didn't know if there's any legality about the whole thing that I
Mm,
needed to be aware of. Um, and instead of worrying about it, one day I just like, look, I don't know. And I think my email list was about 5,000 people at the time. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how many people are going to buy it, but I'm just going to send this email, have a PayPal link in it, button in it, and people can prepay
mm,
for this training course. So I haven't created anything yet, but based on it, if no one buys it, I'm off the hook.
mhm.
If five people buy it, I'm in kind of a tricky situation. I could either refund them or create something where I was willing to put in this amount of work for five people, or maybe it's going to be 1,000 people. Who knows? So I sent out that email, and I got way more sales than I ever
Mm.
expected. And actually, I mean, I'd have to go back to verify, but I believe over the first year of it, there were over 1,000 sales of that training course. And this was from, again, coming from an email list of originally 5,000 people and having no confidence whatsoever and feeling like no one's going to buy it. So it was a breakthrough for me, and kind of that evidence too. It's like, stop holding yourself back.
Mm.
And that's what we often do. And until you actually try something and experiment or take a risk, you really have no idea. And if nobody wanted it, that would have been fine too. I at least would have known that. I would have learned that. I could have adjusted and done something else. So Um, but yeah, that was my first course. That was like a static course where it's, what we all think of as an online course, whereas modules and private content,
Mhm.
videos. It was mainly videos. I was like, and I overproduced, over delivered. It's like 40 some videos
Mm.
um, for not enough money. But you know, again, I learned something from it because long term, that's a model I've moved away from. Because with Facebook, things change way too fast.
Mhm.
So it's like, okay, I can keep selling this for a year later, and I eventually like just create a new course. But I didn't learn my lesson yet. I just created an entirely new course. But there's gonna be a point where people are gonna be complaining like this is outdated. Like, so I've moved more and more to these live trainings that I can conduct pretty much the same way and make little tweaks every single month. We're gonna have live Q&A. They can watch the replays or see, like these 4-week training programs that I've been doing.
And that's interesting because my parents are both educators, so I do come from an educational background, and we all know that school is set up in a way generally to help the learner. There's a lot of problems we can go into that later, but there is that live training, that live teaching that does benefit so much. Have you seen your students, and I'm one of them? Have you seen your students have more success because they have those live webinars and live, almost like periods where they're with you versus the pre-recorded videos and course content?
Absolutely. And first of all, both my parents are educators too,
Oh,
or
nice.
we're educators too, so they're retired now. But I think so. I mean, I just know for me personally too that I've bought trainings in the past, and you can just completely forget about it and
Right.
not even do anything with it. Not that you can't do that with live as well,
Mhm.
but at least then it's like you get these reminders and these pushes like it's happening today, join me, and that kind of thing. And the fact that you can actually ask questions
Mhm.
while you're going through while the instructor is going through it, I think can be really useful. Obviously, and it's probably no surprise, those who attend the live webinars, those who ask questions, are the ones who ultimately are happiest about it.
Mhm.
Those who, you know, and do the assignments. Those who only watch some of the recordings, maybe they don't do their assignments. Certainly less likely to
Yeah.
find value in it. And so, um, but at the same time, you always have to account for people with different schedules, different time zones. So, yeah, I can't say, yeah, what's wrong with you? You didn't attend live, and it's 2 a.m. your time. Time we're
Right.
doing it. But so there are certainly weaknesses to it with the live format. I'm not going to have 3 different times per day that I'm going to do it to account for everybody. But it's definitely been it's this combined with the membership model that I've been doing for the last, I guess, 2 years now has completely changed my business.
Mm. Well, let's talk about that. Why did you create it? And that's the Power Hitters Club, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So what was the background of why you created it, and then kind of go into maybe the model and some of the services that you provide within that.
So basically, it goes back to again recognizing the flaws of the static training course with modules and whatnot.
Mhm.
So it's not only that it gets outdated, especially on the Facebook ads topic, but that I'm not going to be constantly telling everybody, "Oh, my course, my course, my course." Right? You have a launch. After that, I'm not going to email you every freaking week for the next 2 years about this course. So what happens is I'd have huge, like when I have the launch, when I have the last chance to sign up for this course kind of thing, we have these big peaks in sales, and then the valleys where it's like wasn't a whole lot you could expect during certain times. And then I was sick of that. I wanted something more that I could depend upon, and so that was the motivation behind the membership in the first place, where now we got monthly recurring revenue. So I've got this base then, this foundation of revenue that's going to come in every single month. So any peaks and valleys are going to be on top of that foundation, which makes it much more predictable for my business. So the membership ended up being, so we have weekly webinars. They're just for this group, because there's so much, again, this is the benefit of something that changes so often, is that there's reason to hold a weekly webinar to go over the 10 things that you need to know about. Yeah. It's really not hard to find all these things to talk about. So it's always at least 30 minutes. And we have a Q&A in there too. But we also have a private community, which it's a mature community now. It's been around for over 2 years. So they're really, really helpful, and they help one another. So it's not just a matter of like, John, what's the answer to this? It's like they help one another, and I get in there occasionally too. But additionally, they get access to all of my the replays to my training programs. Mm-hmm. So and now I'm starting to expand off of that original membership. So we had the Power Raiders Club. Then I said, okay, well, that was a $97 a month type of membership. There's some people who may not be ready for that. Maybe they can't commit to that, but they want something. So I decided to split that off to have PHC Elite and PHC Basic. So the basic model basically you just get a community, and then you can also get access to the replays to my weekly webinars. And then now I'm also looking at expanding that off into a community for entrepreneurs, because beginning in January this year, again, kind of because of this whole fact that Facebook changes so much, it's like, well, what could I create that would be more evergreen? And so I'm kind of thinking long term here as well, that all the lessons I've learned creating this business, especially as someone who didn't know how to do it, which is probably going to be the case for most people, I think I have a lot of good lessons to share. So I've started to write these blog posts, see what kind of interest we have there. Started to do monthly webinars, free webinars for entrepreneurs, see what kind of interest there is there. And I think eventually we're planning on starting a community for that group too.
Yeah. And I love that, because, and hopefully this doesn't come across as offensive. It's not meant to, John. Yeah. But what I love about your story is you're just taking one or two steps that you see is the best direction to go. I'm sure you have long-term goals and plans, and that's great. But it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you're doing good work, and then you're kind of looking around you and saying, who else could I serve, or how could I serve them better? And you offer that. Hey, what if I did this? And then you take a couple more steps. And I like that, because, a lot of people think that, hey, successful people have, a 50-year plan and they just nail it. Like they're, I don't know, in elementary, and they know they're going to do this for the rest of their life, and they just do it. And most people, in fact, hardly anybody probably is like that. And so do you feel like that has been your course of action?
Yeah, look, I've got a business manager, John Robinson, who I've been talking to for the past 5+ years, really since the beginning of this. He's family as well. And in the beginning, he tried really hard to get me thinking on a 5-year plan, 10-year plan, 3-year plan. I do not think like that. So we might have thrown something together, but who knows where that went. I am, and this can also make me difficult to work with, but I'm chronically waiting till the last minute on everything. But I also find that, first of all, I thrive on that pressure to a point. But additionally, especially for a lot of these kinds of topics that I'm talking about, not the entrepreneur stuff so much, but Facebook ads, like there's so much last minute change that I need to be aware of to hop on. So, but anyway, and I've talked about this a lot too. And when it comes to an entrepreneur and the myths around that, because absolutely, I do not fit that prototype of what you think of as an entrepreneur. I'm not an overachiever. I wouldn't think. I'm not someone who thrives on working 7 days a week, 365 days a year, all hours, and bragging about it. Hey, it's New Year's, but I'm working. Who else out there is working? Like being proud of it. But we're in that that community now, like in social media, where I see that kind of stuff all the time, and it drives me crazy. Like
Yeah.
that's nothing to be proud of.
Yeah.
Like that's not something I want. Like I'm. It's good job. It's a good job. Like if you had to do it, I feel for you, but I hope that's not your long term plan, or
Mm.
it's not for most of us. Um, yeah, for me, it is a matter of I. So there are two things. There's one thing that motivates me at all times. It's that I'm creating the life that I want for my family and me. So I need to have the freedom of time. I need to have, we have to have enough revenue to pay the bills and pay for college for my kids coming up, not too far away, and everything else around there. Um, but I also don't want to be on the road all the time.
Yeah.
I don't want to be working nights because I'm coaching my kids' baseball team. I don't want to be working weekends. I don't want to do any of that stuff. So it's funny because as we go in the beginning, seemed like I was begging for opportunities to work with people and all this kind of stuff. And then these days I get lots of opportunities coming to me. I say no to 99.9% of everything because it's like all it does is complicate things more. So so now that I have things where I want it, I take little steps here and there. I'm still constantly experimenting and seeing what works and what doesn't. But um, like this entrepreneur thing was kind of a little step. It wasn't like I'm going to create this community and create these products and I'm launching it today. And as long like, well, let's create some blog posts. We'll see if this is something I should commit to that people are going to enjoy, and then we're going to do this free webinar. And so that's kind of been my approach.
Yeah, and that's good, and that's encouraging to me, and hopefully to the listener as well. That you don't have to be that person that works 7 days a week and 24 hours a day, and all that, and forsakes their their family and friends and social life, and there needs to be a healthy balance. And so I applaud you for sticking to that and for preaching that in a way that it can be done and it should be done. We all know that, but many times it can be easier to just get I don't know, put your head down, go to work, and just try to make
Yeah.
it happen. So
Well, and to be clear, look, that first couple of years or whatever, it took some of those late nights and weekends and some extra work, because I had to try to make this all work. And there's a lot of pressure on me to make sure that we could put food on the table and keep the roof over our heads. But I think there comes a point where you start getting that, and you're able to get the food on the table, you're able to get the roof over your head. Well, there are other things that are important, and you have to decide what that is. Maybe your motivation is fame and fortune and everything else along with it, and you want to be as rich as possible. I think those are kind of weird things to be your primary motivation. But if that is the case, then maybe working all the time is your thing. But I do have a wife and 3 kids, and I want to not only see them grow up, I want to be a part of their lives growing up. So that's my primary motivation. So really, everything I do is all about structuring my life, my day, as simply as possible, and as efficiently as possible, to still have all this other time that I
yeah,
need.
that's so good. That's so good. So what would you tell the audience, if they're thinking about using Facebook ads to promote their course, their membership site? What might be some beginner tips that you could offer?
Well, I think first of all, understand the importance of targeting. So, but also understand that this is a long-term strategy, because you can't just hop in this today and say, I'm going to target all my website visitors, and you get 10 website visitors a day, that you're trying to target, and like, where are my results? Why am I not getting any results? Because you don't get any traffic. Well, that means you also have to build your website traffic. So it's a long-term commitment. It's why I've been writing at least a blog post, just about every week for the past 5+ years. And so and actually this is the topic of a blog post I just wrote yesterday for entrepreneurs. But so I write the content, I share it to my social networks, I share it to my email list, I promote that blog post to people who have visited my site before. When they visit my website, a lot of those people end up subscribing to my email list, or they end up liking my Facebook page. And then the process keeps repeating. And as we go, it keeps growing more and more. But in the beginning, it's small. And you have to start with audiences when you run Facebook ads that don't know you because you don't have anything.
Yeah.
So at that point, but keep in mind, this is a funnel, or you need to approach it as a funnel. You should know that if you've got an audience of people who visits your website, they are infinitely more likely to sign up for your course or membership or whatever, as opposed to someone who has no idea who you are. And just because they have some sort of interest that Facebook thinks that may be similar. So recognize that first. Know that needs to be a long-term goal. And realize that, well, if I'm going to promote product to people who don't know me, my results are going to be less or aren't going to be as productive, but I have to start somewhere. So my recommendation is to always be running 3 types of campaigns at once. Get one campaign that's just promoting your content. So something that's useful and helpful with no strings attached so that you can build those audiences of people who have visited your site before. Another campaign that's building your email list, ideally to the people who visited your website before, but in the early going that you might not be able to spend as much budget there. And a campaign is promoting your product. And again, ideally targeting, primarily focusing on people who have either subscribed to your email list or have visited your website. So in the early going, you'll be focusing most of your budget on people who don't know you. But as those audiences grow, as you get more and more people who visit your website, more and more people on your email list, start shifting your budget more and more to those groups of people.
That's good. That's really good. Well, cool. Well, Jon, where can people find out more about you?
You could go to jonloomer.com. That's JONLOOMER.com. You can find me on Twitter at Jon Loomer or Facebook, facebook.com/Jon Loomer Digital. Those are the primary places.
Cool. And briefly tell me about your podcast. What are the topics you cover, and where can people find more about your podcast as well?
So that's the Social Media Pubcast. I've been doing that really for the past, it's probably been four years or so now. And so the whole thought there is, once again, it wasn't a matter of like me trying to create a podcast like everyone else is doing. Especially in the early days, I'm not a comfortable interviewer. And for a long time, I was really uncomfortable any kind of public speaking.
Sure.
That meant even talking on something recorded where no one's listening to me right now, kind of thing, right? I was still nervous doing that. So I wanted to do something that kind of fit me as opposed to trying to fit me to some format. And so it all started when one of my guests and I just popped a beer and we're just talking casually for the podcast. And that's really been the approach going forward. This is less a structured podcast like you've always heard. I mean, it's still structured, but it's meant to feel more casual. It's more of a conversation. And then we are actually like at a bar, or I usually have a beer of some sort. But the topics tend to be either Facebook ads. So like these days, I just have two different guests. So it's Andrew Foxwell, who's a fellow Facebook ads nerd, and we'll talk about Facebook ads related stuff once a month. And then I also have on John Robinson, who's my business manager, and we talk about all the entrepreneur business stuff. So that's really been the approach there. But it's on Stitcher, it's on iTunes, it's all over the place.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, and again, I want to thank you for building these services and even some of the products and some of the marketing materials you have. You build them around you and your personality, and like you said earlier, it's easy to look at the people that are super outgoing and want to be famous and popular and try to emulate them versus looking at who am I and how can I do this within what I'm comfortable with.
Yes, and it's easy for me to say, obviously today, but it was a long struggle for me to kind of figure that out. But looking at it now, I think it's really important to understand what you're good at, what you're passionate about, what you're not good at, what you hate to do, and really what the reason is that you're doing all this, what's motivating you to do all this. I mean, should really be your driving factors for how you build your business.
Yeah. Yeah. My friend and mentor, Dan Miller, who will be speaking at Social Media Marketing World as well, he
Mm,
always says whether you're finding or creating your job, most of that work should be looking internally. Who am I? What
yeah,
am I skilled at? And so, again, I'm glad you are demonstrating that, because to the listener, don't feel like you have to be in that trap of, being like famous person X if you are
yeah,
not like famous person X,
right,
which most of us
exactly.
aren't. We have different goals and dreams. So,
Yep.
well, Jon, thanks so much for being on the Online Course Coach podcast today.
I had a lot of fun. Thanks so much for having me, Jeff.
All right, well, there you go. I hope you learned as much as I did. I was taking a bunch of notes and took a lot away from Jon's conversation. Even just the easygoing attitude that he has, the idea that he loves to serve his audience, which I do too. I mean, that's even the whole goal of this podcast is to serve you and to hear what you're struggling with, what you're trying to accomplish, and even how we can make this podcast and other materials help you even more. And so I loved that about him. And again, I love how he took one step at a time. It is, like I said at the beginning, it's easy for me to really get overwhelmed with things, what I want to do, what I am doing, what I should do, what other people think I should do. But I just need to take it one step at a time. And I'm guessing you need to do the same thing. Also, don't forget, if you are interested in learning more about how to use Facebook ads for your online courses, go to onlinecoursecoach.com/FB ads. That's Facebook ads, of course. And you can sign up, because in the future, I'll be having just a small group of people walk through a specific strategy on how to set up Facebook ads properly, how to use Facebook ads, whether it's images, videos, or text, and then how to leverage that for online courses. And it is amazing. I'm running a Facebook ad campaign right now, and some of the cost per leads are, pennies. It might be 5 cents, 11 cents. Some of them are more, of course, but you can really control who sees those ads. So you might say, hey, only people interested in real estate within Indiana get to see my ads, or only people that are between the ages of 21 and 27 that make under let's say between $50,000 and $100,000 see this ad. Or maybe it's just females interested in yoga. You can control who sees the ads, and then you only get charged when they click on the ad. So you don't even get charged if they just look at the ad, but when they click on the ad, that's when you get charged. And so it's a really economical way to get leads, to get people to buy your course, even to get people interested in your materials. Just like Jon said, you can promote your content, you can build your email list, and then you can promote your products. So again, go to onlinecoursecoach.com/FB ads if you're interested and want to sign up, just to learn more about that when it comes out in the future. All right, that is all for today. I just want to say thank you so much for listening to the Online Course Coach podcast. I love hearing from you, those of you that send me emails at jeff@onlinecoursecoach.com, or you ping me on Twitter, Jeff_Long. And, just carry on the conversation. I love to hear what you're working on, what you're struggling with, and, if I can help in any way. And then lastly, if you are interested in coaching, please go to the website, fill out the contact form, and let me know how I can help you take your online course to that next level, whether it's just starting it or improving it. And one of my expertises is in video-based courses. I have a video background, and so that is something that I'm really good at, is how to make you feel comfortable, look good on video, as well as having your videos be interesting for the viewer. Because if they're not interesting, your student is not going to watch your videos, is not going to continue taking your course, and they won't buy more products from you in the future. So those videos are a pretty important thing. All right, well, thanks for coming back to the show, where it is truly my goal to help you, to teach many, so your students can impact millions.